Novak Djokovic's third round match against Musetti lasted 4 hours and 29 minutes, and Iga Swiatek's fourth round match versus Potapova lasted 40 minutes. I'm going to talk about both of these matches because I do think they're interesting and significant. But before I do that, and for you guys that don't live in the United States, you can fast forward until the point where I start talking about the matches. But I was ranting yesterday, and this is why the Monday morning rant is coming out on a Sunday. NBC put the Djokovic match behind the paywall. So let me tell you what happened. I know that on the weekends, the coverage switches from the tennis channel to NBC. Okay, not a problem. I kind of like NBC because you got McEnroe commentating. He's one of my favorite commentators. So I started looking through my TV. Where is NBC? Where is NBC Sports? I can't find it. I go on Google, and it turns out that the match is going to be on Peacock. And now I'm looking for Peacock on my TV, okay, like a boomer, as they say, even though I'm not one. And I can't find Peacock. So I go back on Google, and it turns out that Peacock is a streaming service. And I look into it, and it turns out that you have to pay for the streaming service to be able to watch that match. So for the first time in a long time in the United States, one of the best matches of the entire tournament was put behind a paywall. And this is a terrible thing. I remember vividly in Germany when they started putting tennis matches behind a paywall. In other words, not on regular cable TV, but for a subscription service. The interest for tennis in Germany faded away. I understand that this is not that big of a deal because it's only one match. However, NBC loves to gobble up the weekend matches because these are going to be the most viewed, especially when we're talking about the semifinals and the finals. But putting a tennis match behind a paywall is so ridiculous. People are so upset about it. Feel free to comment below this video. Listen, I'm not affiliated with Tennis Channel at all, but I always talk positively about Tennis Channel because I'm very thankful that we have it. I have Tennis Channel Plus. I love it, and Tennis Channel provides a great service. However, these other companies want a piece of the pie, and they cover some of the matches, and it always turns into a disaster, especially when NBC does it. So I get that NBC is a powerful organization and that they're going to have the weekends, but please do not put tennis behind a paywall in the United States because people are going to be very upset. And now let's get on to the matches. Novak Djokovic wasn't doing too well. He was down 2-1. It was deep into the night, past 1 o'clock in the morning, and wins 6-3, 6-0. Maybe one of the most impressive performances in Djokovic's career because he wasn't doing well physically. Musetti was playing well, and it just shows you that Djokovic is mentally the toughest player in the history of tennis. And now looking at the draw, I have Djokovic losing to Ruud, and if I would have known that Djokovic was going to have this 5-set match against Musetti, I would have probably picked Djokovic to go through Ruud because this was definitely a confidence builder for Djokovic. Of course, the favorite to come through to the final on the bottom half is Zverev, but you cannot count out Medvedev, who is playing well and made it through the fourth round. But these are the type of matches that build Djokovic's confidence, and while this might have been exhausting physically, when we're talking about the tennis part, history has shown that Novak Djokovic, when he gets through these tough matches early in slams, ends up winning slams. Will he do it at this year's French Open? I do think it's possible that Djokovic can make it through the final and even possibly win. However, he's got some tough hurdles ahead of him. Cerundolo is a great player, but I do think Djokovic is going to come through that one. If Ruud makes it to the quarters, that will be a really tough test since Djokovic lost to Ruud in Monte Carlo. And then the ultimate test is going to be a possible semi-final showdown with Zverev. So I still think it's unlikely that Djokovic in his current form will make it to the final, but it's 100% possible because we can never underestimate Djokovic. It's not easy to beat Djokovic in a best out of 3 match, but imagine having to beat Djokovic in a best out of 5. Just put yourself in Musetti's shoes. He's up 2-1. He's playing unbelievable tennis. He's got Djokovic on the ropes. It's in the middle of the night, and this guy comes back and plays unbelievable and wins the 5th set 6-0. So to beat Djokovic in a Grand Slam tournament is maybe the most difficult thing in the game of tennis. All right, now let's talk about the Swiatek-Potapova match. And this was one of the most interesting matches that I've seen in a long time. And while it doesn't appear so, because it was a 40-minute match where Potapova won 10 points. It was an absolute beatdown, 6-0, 6-0, reminiscent of the 1988 final between Graf and Zvereva, where Graf won 6-0, 6-0 in 32 minutes. But this was a super important match for Iga because she wanted revenge. Why? Because in juniors, where Potapova was dominating, they faced each other 7 times and Iga won 0 matches. So Potapova was 7-0 against Iga prior to their first head-to-head on the WTA Tour. And what does Iga do after losing 7 times in a row to Potapova? She destroys her 6-0, 6-0 in 40 minutes. This shows you how much passion for the game Iga has, how much desire to win she has, and also shows you how much Iga has developed her game in the last few years. And there's a huge discrepancy in level of play on clay. Potapova is a great player. However, Iga was able to expose her weaknesses in movement. She was opening up the court and Potapova was out of position too many times, and she had absolutely no chance to even get a game. In fact, not a single game went to deuce in this match. Now looking at the draw, there were some surprises. So Iga is going to play Vondrousova next. I think she's going to make it through that match, and as I predicted, we're going to have Gauff in the other semifinal. Most likely Gauff has made it through the quarterfinals as well. The big surprise here on the bottom part of the top half is Jabeur playing well. I did not think that she was going to go past the second round because of a lack in confidence, but Jabeur is playing well. I think she can come through Towson in the 4th round, and she might be able to give Coco a good match in the quarters, but I think Coco is going to be too strong. And on the bottom half of the draw, I think it's pretty clear that Rybakina and Sabalenka are going to be in the semifinal. I'll be surprised if I see a different result. The one player to look out for, and someone that I mistakenly didn't pick, is Mira Andreeva. I did not think that she was going to make it past Azarenka, but she did in a tight match, and she might provide a challenge to Sabalenka, but Sabalenka is playing well, and I do think that she's going to make it through the semis, but I'm sticking to my pick, and I think that Rybakina will make the final. I already talked about the top half of the men's draw, so let me go to the bottom portion real quick, and I think my prediction is going to be correct, and we're going to have an Alcaraz-Sinner semi-final with Alcaraz coming through. If you haven't seen my latest video on Alcaraz's serve, he has made a technical change on his serve. He is playing well. To me, Alcaraz is the best clay court player in the world, even though he hasn't really played that much this year. And now that Nadal is out, he is my favorite to win the French Open title. Let me finish off with the discrepancy in time, 4 hours and 29 minutes versus 40 minutes. Of course, this is going to create headlines because men and women are getting paid the same. I'm not going to talk about equal pay. In today's video, I've talked about this in the past, and you can check out a rant from last year. But here's the thing. There's a couple of factors at play. First of all, we have a player who's so far superior over the other players on the clay, and that's Iga. It's somewhat reminiscent to a prime Nadal, where he used to win very easy matches. At Roland Garros, even against Federer, he blew him off the court once. So this can happen if there's a huge discrepancy in play, where matches don't last that long. As I said in some of my older videos, an easy solution for the WTA is make the female players play best out of 5. I know this is going to be tough because they already have problems with scheduling. They should have never scheduled that Djokovic-Musetti match that late. So this will never happen, but it would be an easy solution to these blowout matches that can happen on the WTA Tour, especially because of the fact that they play best out of 3 sets. There has been some incredible WTA matches this year that went the distance. For example, Swiatek against Osaka in the second round was a phenomenal match. Osaka had that match on her racket, but that was a match of a high caliber that went the distance. So it doesn't mean that the WTA is terrible. It's just something that happens every now and then. In the right circumstance, you will get a blowout match, even a score like 6-0, 6-0.